some like favourite comics, you do meet them. And
Yeah.
they're just like,
I bet you're
Just
racist.
real shit.
Yeah.
we're good. Okay.
Good.
Tom, take us away.
3, 2, wait. Clap this in.
Nice.
Sorry.
Big old
Was
clap.
so
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah, I
It's
need,
a proper
showing
dad
off.
clap.
yeah, I need it for the edit though, so I can see the spike.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to All I Do Is Fail. I am your host, Tom Elwes. I'm joined today, as ever, by my co-host, Mr. Ali Woods.
Hey Tom, how's it going? You all right? And
Good.
hey listeners, I don't care about Tom. So the thing what I will say though, we've started our Patreon just straight off the bat. Thank you so much to those who've already donated. We really appreciate it. You can find us patreon.com/ADIFpod if you want to donate anything. Thank you.
And thank you for everyone for watching the video and liked and
Yeah.
shared the video. We've had an amazing feedback from that.
We're such good singers. E17, Stay Another Day. I mean, I think we've given another boost. Possible push for Christmas #1.
Pulled it back around.
We did say last week we'll try and get Leona Lewis back.
Yeah.
in the public.
Yeah.
In the public domain.
We were
But
going to have
then
her
E17.
on this. So.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think it's not that hard.
Yeah.
So but anyway, just want to say thank you very much. Cheers, listeners.
Thank you. And we are joined today by the fantastic Lauren Pattison.
Hello.
How are you doing? You okay,
Hi,
Lauren?
I'm good, thank you.
What's going on? You had a bit of drama this morning. You were
I've
telling
got
us
mice in my walls.
about. That's not a euphemism
That's
for anything.
fun.
That's just.
Yeah. But it's doing my head in because they wake me up like 4 a.m. every day. And
Do you
I was
hear
like
them scratching?
scratching at the walls. And I was like, if I wanted my sleep to be disturbed at 4 a.m. every day, I'd have had a baby. Like, I would have had a child.
Have they are they coming into running across the floor?
Well,
and
we haven't seen them in the flat, and then last night I went to get a Baileys and I saw one in the kitchen. I was like, right, we have to move now. We have to burn
wait,
the place
wait
to the
until they
ground.
run across your toes when you sleep.
Ooh,
that
that
happens.
is my boyfriend the other night though thought he felt one run down his back, and I was like, please don't say they're in the bed, please. No, thank you. No.
Yeah, I had a mouse in my room once, and I had a real. What are you laughing at? I didn't say it in a sort of weird way.
I was like, is that what
everyone
you
was like,
call her?
I put
Is
him
that-
there. You know what I mean? Like I trapped him. I had things for him. So it's one of those where I was convinced that had happened, where he'd run on my bed, and then I was like to my housemates, "We've got a mouse." I think I even said it was a rat. I was like, "We've got a rat," and they were like, "You are such an imaginative dreamer," because they at the time were like an accountant and a financial analyst, so they just think, oh, with your comedy, you've got probably having a dream, because they don't dream.
Yeah.
So they're just like, oh, it's all kicking off in your room, isn't it? I was like, no, seriously, there's a rat, bruv.
Is
And
this
then-
one of your bits? Like, no.
Yeah,
It's my
exactly.
life.
I don't get it.
And then who stormed in? Like,
Did you get off the bus?
yeah. Hey, don't ruin my best punchlines. So then I remember, and then I questioned myself. But then I remember sitting up in my room one time, and I could hear scratching, because it is scratching at the door.
Yeah.
And I thought, is he trying to get in? Is he trying to get out? So my bed was right next to the door, because it was a small room, because I'm not a baller. And then I looked down, and the rat was there.
Oh.
And he looked back up at me, and I could see in his eyes. Sorry? Yeah, he had a sort of entitlement.
Would it have been a problem if it was a shit?
Yeah. He had a sort of swagger, like, oh, people are going to listen to my opinions. And he looked at me. He looked at me and was like, no one's ever going to believe you.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
But I sort of understood where he came from.
I had that in an Edinburgh flat one year. I'd been like out drinking every night, and there was one night I was like, I'm going to have a night in, really chilled, early night, read a book in bed, and I'm lying in bed and I could hear like a scratching, but I ignored it. And then I thought, oh, maybe it's me, because it was coming from where my phone charger was. I was like, my phone charger's going to go on fire, it's sparking or something. And I looked, and like, say, just a mouse just staring at it. We both kind of just looked at each other for a second, and it was like, well, are you going to leave? And I was like, yes, I will. This room is yours
It's
now.
yours now, you
That's
keep
fine.
this. Yeah. I don't know.
He probably had a show on, to be fair.
Yeah.
And the worst part was, he was getting better reviews.
Yeah.
That was the worst part. Derivative drivel.
Yeah.
My life as a mouse. No one gives a shit, mate.
To be fair, it's a unique perspective they haven't seen in Edinburgh. So.
Yeah.
I had a weird one I was at my ex-girlfriend's house, and a rat in the kitchen ran across. Everyone screaming, going nuts. My ex-girlfriend's mum goes upstairs, comes down with a whip from her room. Yeah,
Spicy.
and then starts going after it with the whip, and I was just like, that is. I've taken on a lot of information
whip.
here. This is a
Yeah,
lot.
this
yeah.
is too much for a
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Did you talk about the whip?
I mean, I was like, that's a nice whip. And she just, yeah.
Oh, smooth Tom
Yeah,
Elwes
yeah.
once again. Never misses an opportunity.
Well done, Mrs. Fleet. That was lovely. Yeah.
Fleet's whip.
Yeah.
She turned around to you and was just like,
You're
now
next.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know the song Rat in My Kitchen? Reggae
No.
song? I'll send it to you both.
I'm so surprised you listen to reggae.
What can I say? Man of many talents. Speaking of reggae, Horatio Gould, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad.
Producer Horatio.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Good. So
Sweet.
there we go. It's just a bit of banter to sort
Yeah.
of start the podcast.
Yes, fire, flames
So
emoji.
we'll re-record that if you could laugh this time. That would be great. We'll just cut that.
We'll
There we go.
superimpose the cuts of your face laughing.
That's what we do for all the videos. A little behind the curtain for the listener and the viewer.
Okay, guys, we are going to move on to the news. Bit of replay there, backing vocals.
Wait, did you keep the news for here? I forgot.
No, what? No, we put a jingle in.
Why did you say that?
He says it like that.
I
every
say it like that
time,
every
all the
week.
time.
Yeah.
So there's that thing, and the other truism.
Understood it.
The other truism is Tom goes, and we are joined by we are honoured to be joined by, and then introduces the guest every time.
I am honoured to be joined by. You guys are not honoured. You
No,
can
you
not
stop yourself. You go, and we're joined by, and we were honoured to be joined. By.
Time for the news.
Don't nick. That's my backing vocals.
News.
Okay, guys. Our first. The reason I said.
Trolled live on air by the producer, no less.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The reason I go okay like that is so I know for the edit I can cut straight back in.
Why do we do this?
Because if we're just talking shit and being like, whoa, 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 and then like we go into the news story,
Keep it in,
it's the
mate.
worst
This
edit
is
ever.
what they want to see. This
No.
is what they want to see. Okay, guys.
Okay, guys.
Our first story of the news. Our first story of the news is that of Mr. Donald Trump. He was not happy at a NATO summit. President of the United States.
Okay.
Donald Trump, if that helps you. Yeah, he was not happy at the NATO summit because Boris Johnson, Macron, and Macron and Justin Trudeau. Yeah.
Macron.
Macron.
You better not be protesting in my Parisian suburban background.
Goddamn background.
We good?
Okay, guys.
All things I can cut out later.
I'm great.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
So Macron, Trudeau,
Macron.
Macron, Trudeau, and Boris Johnson were caught gossiping about Mr. Donald Trump, slagging him off for his press conferences, saying that he goes off the rails and goes on for 40 minutes, and his team can't handle him and jaws to the floor every time he gets up there from his team because they don't know what he's going to do. He was fuming, obviously, and I think he actually tried to like cancel loads of his meetings with them and basically threw a hissy fit.
It's not like him.
Yeah.
Did you see the video, Lauren?
I didn't. No.
You didn't. Oh, okay. We need to show you it. Hang on. It's good. It's good stuff.
It's proper Mean Girls stuff.
Is
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Oh,
Like, and
yeah.
it shows like at any sort of level, they just gossips. Let me see. Will it be on YouTube? Do you reckon?
Yeah, probably.
Trudeau gossiping.
Background.
I wanna take y'all rats. Macron. Macron again. Macron, but not forgotten.
Emmanuel Macron.
It's not about this. So yeah, so it's obviously not recorded, but
Yeah.
the lip reader's gone and. This is the Buckingham Palace as well. In Ireland.
Oh, he looks fuming.
Yeah, he's not happy. He's not happy. They had a proper little
I
meeting.
didn't see this. So he
Well, you
responded.
see Trump,
He called
you
him.
see
He
Trump.
called him.
Called him Two-Faced,
Called him
didn't he?
Two-Faced.
Yeah.
There you go. I think it's just it now. Safe.
Yeah, so Trump's alt. No one was happy. He's threatened to leave the NATO summit, I think. That's what I'm saying. He was threatening to leave. And I don't know. The point of this: have you ever been caught gossiping or caught someone gossiping about you?
Yes.
I've never gossiped, but I did hear about some other guy that gossiped. Did you get it?
Oh.
Zing.
What was your gossiping thing?
I remember being in a green room and I was quite new. Knowing you're like you're not like chipping in, but you're aware that you want to be part of the conversation because you're like, please accept me, please validate me, I'm a new comedian, please give me credit.
And you also don't want to be the weird comedian who sits there
Exactly.
silently staring at them while they talk.
They were slagging off an act who was on stage. And I wasn't participating,
What
but I
club was
also
it?
wasn't. I cannot remember, but it was quite early on, so I'm guessing it was somewhere in the north because I
Right.
didn't come down to London much when I started. I didn't say anything, but I also didn't defend this act and I didn't leave the room. So technically I was in the wrong just by being there. The act comes off stage, comes in, and he'd been recording his set from the green room. And you saw everyone's face kind of, oh, and then
So he comes back in going, oh, tough crowd out there.
Comes and he was
Pauses it.
like, oh yeah, bang on 10 minutes or whatever, and turns it off, and you saw everybody's like face just tighten a little bit, and I was thinking, well, technically I did not say anything, so like I am not guilty, but then also felt bad just by being in there. But he left the room again, and I think the other act got his phone and deleted the recording. And then when he came back, he was like, oh shit, I must have deleted. Oh, never mind.
Nice
and
save.
they just like snuck in there and wiped it.
Wow.
And I think this is pre when things would have backed up to the cloud or whatever. And that was the first moment when I was like, wow, comedy's savage. Wow. Like,
That is really, I mean, sneaky on so many levels from the
Yeah.
comics. That is. Also, what an idiot for not having a passcode on his phone. Like,
Exactly.
that seems bizarre,
Why
but
is he recording it from the green room? I can see why they gossiped about him.
yeah.
That is pretty bad, though. It's, I mean, yeah, devious on so many levels.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
But ever since then, and this was like so early when I started doing comedy, now I'm always like panicking that people are talking about me in green rooms, because when you've seen it happen, well, you see it happen all the time, but to see it happen to that extent now, every time I leave a green room, I'm like, I just want to bug the room and be like, I know you're not talking about it.
Yeah, come back in a right mood. Don't tell them what it is. Oh, you know. You know what you
I've
did.
also had it in a car share with a comic when someone starts telling me this story and I was the person involved in the story, but they didn't know I was the person in the story. So fair play.
what was the story?
I don't think it's going to be. And this amazing comedian that I loved was
Just
brilliant.
smashed
I
it,
can't
and I
remember
love
her
it.
name,
And I
but
remember, and I really got on with the comic. So obviously they would not have said it if they'd known I was the other person. And I waited till he got to the end of the story, and I was like, that was me. And he was like, no way. And I
What
was like,
was it?
it was
What was
me.
it?
Can you tell us the
I
story?
can't tell it.
Can you tell us and we'll cut it just so we know?
I'll tell you when we finish recording, because it involves someone else and I feel really bad.
Okay.
But it wasn't something you'd be happy, like, because then as well I was like, oh my god, is this story common? Is this a car share story? You never want to be the car share story, do you? You don't want to be
because
the
they
one.
are melting pots of gossip.
Exactly.
The comedians car share. You've got 3 hours or whatever to just sit there
And
with
I
each
thought,
other.
oh God, please don't let this story be the one that's bonding comics that don't know each other in car shares across the country. I am the glue that holds you all together. But it was just so weird to sit there and be like, oh, tell me what happened next. I don't know. Oh, no, I
You'll
couldn't
never
possibly.
believe it. I can't believe she did it. It was incredible.
Did
Oh,
you come off badly in it though?
I don't come off badly, but it's one of those stories that's just like an embarrassing story. And at the end, I was like, yeah, that was me. And he was like, bruv. And I was like, I don't know.
What was it? Was it Tom Elwes?
Sat right here. Again, second time you've done that. Didn't get enough of reaction.
From ends.
Yeah, didn't get enough of reaction.
It's
first
these
time.
trousers,
What's that?
Ali
Did
Woods.
that.
What that?
Yeah.
I do that to. It's called.
I
It's
don't
called
really-
intimacy between friends. Tom's
We're not
having
friends.
hurt me, listeners.
You're Donald Trumping him, mate. It's
Touch this.
body
Did
language.
you enjoy that one?
It's
We're not
power
friends.
move.
We're not
You keep
friends.
slapping him to show who's boss.
Oh, someone's walking on their back. Look at that. You feel his back.
This is the first time you've actually not had your jumper off to show the guns in quite a while.
Well, I haven't been to the gym this week, so what's the point? You know what I mean?
I went trampolining again the other day. We
Mate,
went trampolining.
how good was that? Yeah, me and Lauren went to Zap Space.
We did.
It was for another
For
comedian's
an
birthday.
adult's birthday party.
Yeah.
Was it like one of those trampoline parks?
Yes. Yeah.
How was this other? Did you go to Zap Space again? Or did you
We
go to a
went
different one?
again, but on a Wednesday lunchtime, and we're the only people in there.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Not
Why
even a couple of road kids. Like,
Just 3 unemployed adults having a little bounce
Yeah.
while the staff were fuming because then they had to come and supervise. And
I found with those trampoline parks, you get tired real quick.
Oh, so quick.
So
So
quick.
quick.
Your legs,
Going
yeah,
down-
I'm not surprised.
Going downhill.
But Yeah, you do.
What is this? This is not.
It's called All I Do Is Fail comedy
We're
podcast.
about to absolutely like bury this podcast into the ground.
Tom, I love you with all my heart.
I don't love you.
Oh. So,
I want to a little bit more.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a lot of relationships. That's if you want to get what it's like dating Tom Elwes, you just had it,
Here we
ladies and
go.
gentlemen.
Abusive.
So, did you get to go on the bit that was closed off due to sick?
We did. It was open
How was
and
it?
it smelled a lot fresher. I didn't want to slide down because I was like, I still don't trust it. How do you clean this thing? But yeah, it did smell a lot more fragrant without a lot of sticky kids in there,
Fair.
which was nice.
What bit was closed off due to
Someone had
sick?
been sick on the slide.
Yeah. Too
so it
much
was
for
all-
them.
It smelled.
There was a slide at the trampoline park.
Yeah, big old slide.
Oh, okay.
You can mix it up.
Yeah, mix it up. When I went, it was just like there was like a dodgeball sort of arena
Yeah, we did the dodgeball.
thing. People were taking it very seriously.
Then one kid did turn up who was clearly like having a little party on his own or whatever, and he came and wanted to join in the dodgeball, and we were like, we can't be knobheads
Smashed
and
him
not
up.
let him join in.
Loser!
So I was trying to
3-on-1.
like, not throw the ball at him, and I was like, he's a kid, whatever. But then he hit me like square in the head with a ball, and I was like, oh, fuck off. Like, and he was like, it's my birthday. I was like, it's my birthday too. And then we hit him, I think one of the balls hit him in the willy, and he was like, oh, my penis. And I was like, don't have a child start shouting about his penis when he's on a trampoline court with 3 adults, because we're the ones who are going to come off bad in this. I think his dad took him away after that. We're like, bye, friend.
Bloody hell. Have you, do you gossip much, Tom?
Do I gossip much? Have gossiped before in some ways that are pretty
It's like
bad.
a politician lying.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
Look,
yeah,
I
I-
have gossiped before.
We
I had a-
gossip
I had-
much
Yeah,
fun time.
I had an
But
awkward,
am I gossip? That's not for me to say.
I had an awkward encounter with someone's name or the party. Like basically, this girl had a name. She was called like Mandy David, and I was just like, Mandy David, what a shit name! I never trust anyone with 2 first names. She just sat there.
Oh, that's the
And then did you offer
worst.
the...
No,
At least it's not personal because you didn't know her.
Yeah, and that's not that. I mean, that's just a general point about names.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not really gossip, is it? It's just... It's just
It's like you're shit. You're a shit. That is fucking awful.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, slagging isn't it gossiping? It's essentially slagging. You don't gossip in a nice way, otherwise it's not really gossiping.
Gossip.
My mate was going out with this girl at uni, and she and in defense of her, she definitely had some undiagnosed mental health issues. So this resulted in, at the library they had this sort of like showdown, and he was just going like, I don't know what you want me to do, and she was just shouting at him outside the library and like shouting at everyone else around, and this is like peak exam season, so everything's busy.
Yeah.
She starts running and then turns around and shouts at the top of her voice, I just fucking love you, Jake, fucking get over it. And then runs, and then Jake's just going, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Then they sort of patch things up, and they're on a bus, and they're with a few friends, and one of the friends, what happened to you, started saying, did you hear about that girl who had a complete meltdown at the library?
no.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Like, she literally, like, shouted, like, I fucking love you! What's up with her? And then she's going, that was me.
Yeah. The worst as well is WhatsApp. If you're in a group and then you see like message deleted,
Oh.
and you're like, what did you say? What did you put in this chat? That was not meant for this chat.
The
Like,
evolution
come
of
on.
gossip. They're expecting that to go into another chat, another group, smaller group
Exactly.
chat about
The
that
one
group
you're
chat,
not in.
which is the fantastic development on the gossiping.
Yes.
I don't know what you'd call it, sort of ecosystem.
Yeah,
Some
we've got
group
that. We've
WhatsApp.
got like a family WhatsApp, which is like me, my mum, my dad, my sister, and then we've got one without my sister.
That's cold.
But then I'm probably like, well, they've probably got one without me as well to like just slag me off to her. And my mum's
that's
like,
devious
well, my
with
mum's like,
families.
oh, well, that one's like, because like for you to put your comedy stuff in, like you can just share that with us. And I'm like, is that what you're telling me? Just hide the fact there's another group chat that I'm not part of.
Jeez.
But yeah.
You have family, what's up? You got loads
Yeah, I've
of
got a family. I've got a big, like, well, immediate family and then a larger family. With the larger family, that's when slagging
Yes.
could get.
Oh, definitely.
You know, when you're bringing in uncles and aunts and stuff, that's when slagging gets
risky.
real.
I'm surprised, going back to these politicians, they didn't say anything more nasty.
Yeah, that was
I
quite
would have,
tame.
but I suppose that's the sort of media training
Yeah.
kicking even in the background.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you know, there's
you don't
cameras
know
or
who's
people about.
listening.
You don't want to just be like, can you believe the dude that we have to negotiate? Because that's what I'd be saying. I'd be like, seriously, guy, what is going on with this guy? Like,
Yeah.
It's insane. But they were just talking about press conferences, which is
Yeah. Also, you'd be so tuned in to other world leaders like screwing you over. Because let's say like France wanted something to get something over the UK and do a deal with the US. If they just slipped in that Johnson said this about you, Trump's gonna freak out and be more inclined.
Exactly. You never know who's a snake.
Yeah.
Who's the snake?
snakes in the grass. We gotta weed them out.
Yeah.
So many snakes in the grass in world
But
leaders.
comedy's bad for it as well because it's sort of there's only one person on stage at a time, so everyone's competing, and like if someone gets success where they think they're not like good at comedy or whatever, then suddenly it becomes a big issue and people want to talk about it all the time. But there's definitely like two sections. I think there's the comedians who. Maybe three. There's comedians who stay out of it, which is very small.
Yeah.
And then there's the comedians who maybe drawn into it sometimes.
Yeah.
If it's going, or like, they have a few drinks or whatever. And then there's the third kind, which are just like any time you sit down with them, they want to talk about comedy and want to talk about who's doing what and what's happening and where everyone's going and whether they deserve it or not.
And they're the ones who'll text you like, have you heard? Have you seen? And you're like, I'm trying. Like, I'm in the category of like, I try to stay out of it. But if someone has done something massive, I'm like, okay, I'm coming in. But I think I feel like it's, like the Garden of Eden with the apple? Yeah. People know how easily tempted I am. And they're like, Lauren, we've got something you'd like to hear. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to be good. Don't. It's about such and such. And I'm like, tell me everything. Tell me it all.
I don't think anyone's ever made it or had like a break without someone slagging them off.
Yeah.
I can't think of, there'll always be someone who'll just be like, your shit. Like, even you can be the most respected, nice comic who everyone thinks is great, but there'll still be one person who you came up with who'll be like,
exactly,
they're shit, they stole that from
I think it's such a British thing as well, is that some people don't like to say other people do well. We can't just be sort of like nice, and some people can, but others are just like so resentful that, like, say it could be the nicest person in the world and they're like, yeah, but once they didn't say thank you when I did this, 12 years ago on a Tuesday in March, and it's like, not that you held a grudge or anything.
Sounds like a you problem.
Yeah.
Also, everyone is going to have an off day. Like, I feel like even when people like talk about celebrities, they'll be like, oh, I heard that they did this once. Like, they probably had one off day where they didn't want to sign an autograph or whatever. But like 99% of the time, you're great. But it's only that people are only going to hold on to that one story. They're not going to be like, they want the shit story.
Worried about the whole retrospective Twitter thing? Where like if you get famous, someone will dig up a tweet from like 2010 or Facebook post where you're just like,
part of me thinks about it.
Oh, Les's dress weird, don't they? Or something like some shit, and then
your Twitter's weird, man.
Yeah. That's why I tweet now. I'm talking about back in the day. Yeah. But like where they took the Oscar hosting from Kevin Hart, and just like some terrible chat that you thought was funny because you were in sixth form.
That's the thing. Like, I think especially people we've had like Twitter and Facebook since we were kids. I'm like, there probably is something there, but I'd like to think I've been nice enough in the last 7 or 8 years that if anything did come up, people would be like, yeah, she was a kid. Like,
but that's the thing.
Society
They
changes as well.
don't take that. No one's taking into account that how your age or anything like that. It's just like if it's there in writing, you're done.
Exactly. Like, cancelled. Out. Yeah, I did see a tweet on Facebook memories. This is what a loser of a teenager I was. I was like 16 or something, and my Facebook status for the day was mayonnaise is shit. And I was just like, no wonder you had no friends, Lauren. Like, just coming up, but I could tell I would have put it on Facebook, being like, I bet everyone will think I'm so cool for this.
Not even like just an alternate to mayonnaise.
Yeah, mayonnaise is shit. And that's what I'm going to get
3
cancelled
words.
for. All the mayonnaise fans are going to be like, what?
The Hellman's Brigade coming at you. Yeah, they won't mess about there.
Yeah. Promise I love mayonnaise now. Really nice.
Well, they've got good sources, so they're probably on to you. Horatio, you weren't available for the pun.
Well, sorry,
Horatio sort of hates to love my puns.
Yes.
He wasn't there. But thank you, Lauren.
You're dressing more like a dad as well. So be on
I am dressing, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to see, if this guy's going to pick you up from your football.
Disco.
No.
Disco, yeah. How was it, kids? Did you have some pop?
This is flirting with the babysitter.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We were saying that like, dad jokes and puns are essentially, that is like white British men.
Only white men.
Oh, yeah.
Only
no
white
one
British
else does
men.
that. Only white British men do that.
And if anyone else does, we're furious.
Yeah.
Our culture's not your prom dress.
Look, they don't get what it was like growing up where we grew up. Puns were currency.
Yeah.
It's like jerk chicken and rice. That's hard.
That's like jerk chicken and rice. Mayonnaise and puns.
If I hear
so
start
lame.
doing puns, I'm furious.
Yeah.
Our jerk chicken and rice is puns. God almighty, how flavourless is our lives?
Shitty
Were you
dad
just thinking of
jokes
a
and
pun
puns.
then? Oh, no. Okay.
It just falls out of it. It's just.
I can't even help it now.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
so ingrained.
I think you
great.
hit a certain age as well, especially as a bloke, where you just become your dad in terms of humour.
I
Like,
see dad jokes coming out
totally.
of me out of nowhere.
My
And you've started,
boyfriend's-
definitely.
Yeah.
My
You need to get
boyfriend's
some reading
28.
glasses.
My dad's cooler than I am.
You
yeah.
need to get some reading glasses. That's when you've really converted.
Yeah.
Okay.
With snaps, with which go to sunglasses when the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fade.
With the,
Yeah.
and the string, with the string
Yeah,
around it, so
yeah.
you can sort of lift them
Yeah.
up and go.
Yeah.
It's a strong look.
Are you like either of your parents, mum or dad, or do you see it in yourself?
My dad is so dry. My dad's got the best sense of humour, and then comics will meet my dad and be like, "Your dad's really funny." And I'm like, "Shut up! Like, no, let me have one thing."
Does he give you tips when he sees you? Or is he like?
I always remember we went to see a gig at the Stand in Newcastle, and we sat like quite near the front, and the comedian said something to me dad, and my dad came back like that with like a comeback, so quick, so funny that he got a round of applause from the
Wow.
crowd, and I was like, oh my god, like so proud. I sat there like welling up, and I was like, this must be what it feels like to be a dad at sports day. Oh my god.
You're showing,
close as we
you're
can
showing
get.
all your other
Yeah.
friends, like, look at my dad here. Look, he's so great with his.
Yeah.
Look, got a little video of him.
He's
like,
so funny.
going back to their dads, being like, "Why can't you be funny?"
Yeah.
I don't know. I think my dad would prefer me to have smashed Sports Day. To be honest, that would be
Yeah.
more of an achievement for
You
him.
must have smashed the shot
No.
put. Look at these shoulders; they're big.
I was a very weedy boy at school. It was not
Yeah.
good. Not a
Yeah,
good.
it's
I
fine.
loved school gossip. School gossip was
Oh.
always brilliant. Because I wasn't cool, I was never the one who was getting gossiped about. But to just hear like the gossip about the cool kids, I'd be like, what lives do
You
you
could be
see?
You're there reading Heat magazine
Yeah.
for your own school. I can't believe they did that. Oh my god! Look all the way they lost as well. But then look all the way they
Have you
put up.
heard?
I had such
Oh my
little of my own life that I just lived vicariously through rumours and gossip. And I was like, this is...
Like the girls that the beginning of Mean Girls when they're talking about the
yes,
Mean Girls.
yeah.
I messaged my mate. Well, I mean, I haven't seen him. I went to school with him, but he started doing rap, and I messaged him.
Started doing
'cause I
rap?
listened- Yeah.
Someone you know is doing rap.
Look, Tom, you're on
Where's
the
he from? Where's
Tom
he
and
from?
Horatio are on the other barometers
Yeah.
of. I'm from ends.
Oh, okay.
I'm hanging out with road men.
These trousers say
I,
ends.
I,
This is
I
what
dress up for these guys.
Okay, yeah.
When I'm out here, I'm hoodies. I'm just tracky bees, Air Force Ones on road. So
Right.
What's your friend- what's your
kind of
friend's
raps you
rapper
doing?
name?
my
Yeah.
friend, it's called Winston Smith. No, it's BE if you want to check him out.
B.
Yeah,
B.
yeah, BIYI, short for Akin BE.
Okay.
And Tom was like, checks out, sounds,
Yeah.
sounds black.
yeah.
Literally what your thought
Yeah,
process was. Okay.
Akin saved it. That was it.
Yeah. But anyway, so I messaged him because our school didn't push creative people at all.
Yeah.
It was all about
Academic.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I pushed it. So I pushed it. So I sent him a message
What you-
and said, "Stop doing creative stuff.
I'm
Get
gonna
back to
I'm
work."
gonna manage you, man. I'm gonna take you all the way.
I messaged him and said, "Like, congrats on the rap, man. Sounds really good. Listen to a couple of songs."
What kind of rap is it? What's he?
It's sort of very of the time.
Grime or like
no,
British
no, no.
rap?
It's very of it's sort of more Loyal Khan and sort of
Okay.
like quite a nice vibe. It's got quite mellow, but then the rap's like sort of introspective stuff.
Wow, you know
Yeah.
so much about hip hop.
Sorry, I'm really really cool. And that shouldn't get laughs. And then stop laughing.
It's the trousers. It's yeah.
Very smart.
Yeah. Even the socks, the sock
socks.
combo. That says
They are
geography teacher.
they are
But
casual
I'm-
Friday
I'm-
socks, aren't they?
You know, but I'm not in the rap game. I'm not the rapper. I'm in the studio. I'm the businessman. So then, but the last message I'd sent to him was like 10 years ago
Yes.
after some obviously clearly lame house party, which was like, oh my days, could you believe Daniel and Nadine?
Yeah.
That was like the whole message. And he went, yeah, I know, lol. And that was it. And that was school gossip, but I loved it. 'Cause
We all gossip.
I'm trying to think what was terrible rumours that went around school. Also, I feel like we were just at the cusp before rumours like where the internet like can squash all rumours. So
Yeah.
like you could kind of like okay, for instance, the Shreddy's kid. Remember like the it's
Oh,
gonna taste
that
great.
he
Everyone was like,
killed
oh,
himself.
killed
Frosties.
Yeah.
He killed himself. He did kill
It was
himself.
like no, he didn't kill himself. He's still alive. He did all this. Yeah.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. No, he doesn't know. He wasn't even born. Horatio's 21, 22.
Oh,
Yeah.
simpler times.
Yeah. He didn't kill himself. No, I looked this up not that long
He's
ago.
like South African or something, isn't he? Or lives in South Africa.
Again, I don't think
Australian,
Was
I heard.
this another
I feel like
gossip?
he's from
Talk
like
about
Wickham or
So
something.
he became a millionaire as well.
Yeah, he became a millionaire. 6 wives, I heard.
They're going to taste my
Yeah.
Sound of Frosty's hitting my
Remember,
plate.
yeah.
So he licensed that and then made millions. And
I don't know if that's
Smart
true.
kid.
Are you sure? You'll Google it. Yeah, we need to stop knowing him. You must be looking this up. Horatio, you're on
I'll do some research.
Yeah, do some research.
And yeah, unfortunately, he did kill himself. So
He made millions, went out a blaze of
The
glory.
Shreddy's kid killer.
what we had, don't you remember, was Facebook posts which were like, "Oh my days,
Yeah.
some people just need to stop like looking at others and actually look at
Yes.
themselves before they start running their mouth."
Yeah.
Then a girl would message going, "What's up, babe?" Like UK,
Yeah.
and then they would comment afterwards like DM me.
Yeah.
Like that was
All my
so good on
Facebook
Facebook
memories from, I'd say, 2009-ish, which is probably when I got Facebook's 10 years ago, what would have been 15, 16, they're all like that.
Christ.
And because it used to be when it would be like Lauren, it had to start Lauren Pattison, didn't it? So it would be like Lauren Pattison thinks, or Lauren, like you would write them in the third person, and all of mine from like that era were like, Lauren Pattison thinks some people are just really testing her patience today. Or like, Lauren Pattison thinks Lauren Pattison thinks you're never like 2 foot away from like a sneaky little rat or something, and like proper clear
And now it's
little.
mice.
Yeah.
People
I was
messaging like, who
right.
was it? You know what Facebook also got rid of, which was absolute gold? When you became friends with someone, announcing it to everyone.
And if you
Do you
broke up with
remember-
someone as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people would
And
be
no longer in a
like, sorry,
relationship.
babe.
Yeah.
The comments and the likes
Yeah,
and the
just the ironic
Yeah.
likes on those. No, but like the people becoming friends with people. Like I remember
Yes.
it. People becoming friends with people, and
And you
everyone just
could
be like, "Who's
comment.
your girlfriend? Like, do you tell her
Yeah.
about the chlamydia? Like,
Yes.
you tell her about chlamydia? Like, what do you got?"
Yes. Oh. And when you saw someone broke up, you'd be straight on MSN Messenger, like, hey, hun.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're so smart! Oh my god, that's so sneaky.
Straight in.
Yeah.
Pow.
Gotta get in early. Yeah.
That
He
was
didn't
so
kill.
good.
He didn't kill himself,
He did- I
but
knew
he
he
is
didn't.
South African,
Oh, he is South
and he's a
Yeah.
gymnast
He's
as
a
well. He's a
gymnast?
gymnast, and he did receive a lot of online bullying, but did not result in his death.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Happy ending.
Yeah.
Happy ending. Bullying no death is the best any
That
of
is
us
the
can
best.
Wait,
expect.
who
Best
said he was
outcome.
South African?
Me, yeah.
How did you know that?
I'm sure I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
In one of my gossip holes that I fall into.
There was
You're a
another
couple
one
years
about-
below us, Rachel. You don't understand how much
The cultural
of a
impact.
discussion.
Several years.
Of a discussion. Well, no, Tom, yes, but me, just a couple. But I'm really winding him up. today.
You're also just like
You know how
your
much-
age as well.
You know
Yeah.
how much this is going to get cut, Lauren.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
nothing of this.
Not
is
one
making the
bit.
air. But you don't understand, Horatio, how much of a discussion this was. This was like
Yeah.
weeks of chat. This like,
Speculation.
It's Frosties as well, by the way. It's not.
I'd said it was
Yeah.
Frosty's,
Okay.
Shreddies.
Don't need to
Anyway.
tell him.
Also,
But
I heard
don't listen to
some
the-
crazy rumours about Barry Scott as well. Remember from the.
Oh, Sill It
yeah, I'm
Bang.
Barry Sill It Bang. Yeah, apparently he's really
Oh.
rich though.
If
Barry
I-
Scott's making
What's the
some
rumor?
dollar.
What's the rumor?
If
But
you
just
ever,
he's
Let's
really
bust
rich.
some myths.
Yeah.
oh yeah, that he's like a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
I
If you ever
started
wanted to wash a
reading
penny.
conspiracy theories before I went to bed last night, and then I got too scared to sleep.
Wow.
What were you reading?
Tom will be
Illuminati.
into this. He's
I
well
was,
into
I was on like
conspiracy.
some like Instagram account for like conspiracy theories, but then a lot of them were like about how the world's gonna end, and I was like,
I
sweet
don't-
dreams, night night.
I know, all of those are rubbish, but like,
Yeah.
I don't. There's
Don't
always.
say that. They're listening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of our listenership is conspiracy.
I love the
theories.
ones about like Area 51. And it's like, but
See, I
conspiracy
believe-
theories are kind of gossip, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's
Sort
peak
of,
gossip.
Yeah, peak gossip.
See, I can get on board with like Area 51 and stuff, but I can't get on
Yes.
board with like Mayan calendars and like world ending. and
No,
all that.
nah.
That's just nonsense. Okay,
Just-
we got an update on Barry Scott.
Just loading.
Oh right, okay.
Sorry.
Only the best internet we
Yeah.
get in our little
Premium.
studio dungeon.
Okay, well, carry on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you buy into any conspiracy theories?
No, I don't think so.
We were reading them last night. What was,
Yeah. What about Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh, he didn't kill himself.
Yeah, okay,
he
good.
absolutely.
Good.
I
That's
didn't
a
even think that was a
universal truth now.
conspiracy. That was just a.
yeah, that's just facts, man.
And like, my favourite is the one that Avril Lavigne is being replaced.
Yes. Oh,
Have you heard
yeah.
that
So
one?
good.
I heard, like,
yeah,
the-
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
That famous thing got
That
replaced.
she's like died and being replaced by like a clone or something, like a doppelganger.
'Cause there's a Paul McCartney one.
Paul
which is
McCartney
like-
Is
one is like
there?
strong. People get really into the Paul
Hmm.
McCartney one, like. But Avril Lavigne, is she famous enough? Maybe she's just not quite famous enough for that
Yeah.
sort of. I
There's a
don't know.
big subsect of people who love Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
She
Well,
represents
she's
for the bangers of Complicated.
okay.
Yeah.
Boyfriend.
We've got
Barry Scott is not a millionaire, but he did play a male paramedic in The Walking Dead season 3.
Amazing.
Oh wow, okay.
Good on
The
him.
actor's called Neil Burgess.
and he came on and was like, "Hi, I'm Barry Scott."
Just cleaning up the blood.
Yeah, they were cleaning up the thing. Yeah, and they were like, "Dude, we've got zombies on our streets. Wash this penny.
Yeah.
There you are."
Back in the dirt is gone.
Yeah.
And the okay. Right. Okay, guys. That
Okay.
was the. Oh, go on. Do you want to interject?
No, I was just going to say okay.
okay.
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
That was the end of the news. Okay. Everyone good? Happy?
Do you want
good.
a drink or toilet?
I'm all right.
Sweet.
Good.
Okay. 3, 2,
That
1.
Was
You're gonna get.
sorry.
I'm gonna take your mic away from you.
Sorry.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. And Lauren, we are now. Don't. If you were laughing, I can't put this
There's
in.
no room for laughter
Yeah.
on this podcast ratio.
On
It's a
this
comedy
comedy
podcast. Take
podcast.
it
All you
seriously.
get in
Sorry,
the
I'm
background when
really
I listen to it is just like. Or just like breathing through your nose heavily. Okay, 3,
Okay,
2,
guys.
1. Lauren, we are now going to move in. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay.
Look what you've done, Horatio. It's
You-
madness.
you've
Yeah.
annoyed- yeah, this has gone into descending.
Take your time,
Okay.
Tom. Don't listen to
3.
him. I think you're really good.
Be quiet as well. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Lauren, we are now going to move on to fail of your life. Lauren, take it away. The floor is yours.
Lovely. Do you want like a comedy one first or a?
Well, we could save the comedy one. Let's do a
Yeah.
life.
Well, I quite like the story I was telling you when I came in. I used to do like extras work because I did a drama degree. And even before that, I knew I wanted to do drama. So I signed up to like an extras agency. And because I looked young, you get cast for a lot of stuff. So anything that films in like a school, they get people who are 18 because they can work you longer. So I did extras work for this CBBC series. Oh, I've got a feel about that because I was 18. I'd gone on like a night out to see some DJ. I think I'd got back in at 5 a.m. I was on set at 7. But knowing you're 18 and you've got that energy of like,
Yeah.
don't, like I couldn't do it now, no way. But I was like, I don't care. So I went in, I was so hungover, like painful, but I was an extra, so I was like, it doesn't matter.
Is this on Tracy Beaker?
No, it was called Wolf Blood.
Oh, that's quite extreme for a kid.
I
Yeah.
sort of remember that.
That was the one where like there was a girl who could like turn into a wolf and like she was trying to like keep it hidden or something.
Do you remember The Raven?
Yes, I had a friend who was on that.
You were on it?
No, I had a friend who
Challenge.
was on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
That in hindsight, if you watch that back, it looks real shit. But
Yeah.
like,
Was it Let the Challenge Commence?
something like that.
Yeah,
Begin.
and then get the rings and I loved that program.
You could always tell when they were going to get knocked off at the end because the music would
Yes,
change. That always
change.
wound me up. But then when it didn't change for a while, I was like, oh my God.
They're gonna do it.
I think I prefer Jungle Run though of the two adventure
Oh,
That was the
that
best
was
when-
great. That was ITV, wasn't it?
shows. Yeah.
The kid got trapped
That's
and they
what-
were just like, well,
He does.
your friend
Yeah.
is dead. Let's move on.
He's stuck in the jungle. Yeah. My like one of my best mates was on Dick and Dom in the Bungalow.
Oh, that was my dream as a kid.
Yeah,
Absolute dream.
Made it all the way to the end, and then he had to do. It was like the thing before Creamy Muck Muck. You had to do a magic trick. But if anyone guessed the magic trick, he couldn't do Creamy Muck Muck.
Oh no.
Someone guessed the magic trick. He stormed off. He's got the videotape. He just stormed off. He's gonna get a PlayStation. He was like absolutely. In it.
Oh.
Also, he was like way bigger than the other kids because he hit puberty early. He just smashed all the games, like all the
Yeah.
physical challenges. He was like pushing these little children out of the way.
That was amazing.
So you were on Wolf Blood
Oh, yeah,
on
so-
2 hours sleep. Or not
So I was
even that.
always like, I was an extra for the whole series, but it would be like walking down a corridor in the back of a classroom on the schoolyard. I knew I was never seen or never going to be seen. But then when I turned up this
How young were
day,
you supposed to look? Like 14?
like 14, 15, which I passed
Okay.
for when I was 18.
What was the so Wolf Blood as a girl turns into a wolf? Is it set in a school?
Yeah, so it was like set in a school. So what they did is they had a lot of kids from the school, sort of like as bulk extras for like big scenes, but they could only work them for so many hours. So then they had like us in for like smaller scenes in classroom and corridors because like you can be worked for a long,
Yeah.
long time.
You're walking the hell out of that corridor.
I was like strutting, and so this day I turned up. There was only like 2 other extras, and I was like, "Uh-oh, what's happening?" And they were like, "Oh, it's a really little scene today, so we don't need many background extras." And I was like, "Uh-oh, that means I'm gonna be very visible." And it was a science class, and obviously they're all doing their experiments or whatever. And I was in the background, and they gave me like kind of like Lego or like Kinects or whatever. And they were like, "So if you just
School for
be
retards.
like."
Yes.
I was like, what? Who plays with Lego in a science lesson? So I was like, what do I do? And they were like, just like, just play with that and like look like you're like building stuff. When you watch the whole series, I was in like technically in every episode. You can never see us until that one episode where I'm at the background, and you wouldn't know unless you were looking for it. I'm just smashing 2 Lego bricks together, just like that. Clearly, just so probably still half drunk, and just like smashing these Lego bricks together. And I was like, if anyone did happen to look in the background, they'd be like, why is that extra?
But did they not give you direct? Were they not like,
No, like,
excuse
do
me,
you change
girl at the
it?
back?
No.
Can you not?
like-
Can you not just
smash
bang
the
2
lights
things
up?
together in a science class?
No one cares about the extra. The fact they
Right.
gave us Lego for a science scene or whatever anyway. And I remember like that's the one episode where I'm clearly visible, and I was like, oh mate,
Wow.
no, you look so tired.
So how long were you had to be there for?
I think I was probably there 7 till 7 or something. They were long old days, like 12-hour days when you're over 18. But
And you
it
just
was
made
fun.
it through with your
Powered
hangover.
through. And I had another when I did Tracy Beaker. It was The Dumping Ground. It was like the sequel to Tracy Beaker. I got that off the back of I'd done the extras work for Wolf. But this
They were
time,
like, we saw
that
you
girl,
smashing.
she smashed
Lego.
them bricks.
Brick smashing
She
girl.
can smash
We
this
need a
part.
part. They were in the casting being like, who can do this part? We
Yeah.
need to. Someone has to
There's
pick
only
up 2
one girl.
Playmobiles and just sort of thrash them around.
While looking like she's going to be sick. That's what we need.
yeah.
And they rang me up and they were like, I was upgraded from extra. So extra, you're bottom of the pipe. You're not allowed to eat with the other actors. Like that
Whoa.
kind of like separate catering.
Oh, that's so like.
Yeah, so we would be
We
in
should
like
have that for
the
Horatio. We
school
should change his
canteen.
job title
We
from
were on
producer.
like fish fingers and beans, and which I was fine with. But like the main actors are eating the catering van and getting really nice stuff. Like you're treated like crap.
I knew a kid on Tracy Beaker. He played Marco.
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
Marco.
Jack, yeah.
That's cool.
But I was bumped up to supporting artist or walk-on artist.
Oh.
That was it. Walk-on
Did
artist.
you get a dressing room?
So you have you get paid more money because technically you've got a specific role. Even though it's just a walk-on part, I was a mugger rather than just like background corridor girl number 7. So I was a mugger. And I was like, amazing. I think
I've made it.
This
You're onto that
is-
specific family WhatsApp
Yeah.
with without your sister going.
exactly, guys. This
I've
is
made
my
it.
big break. And like I turned up and I got like
Did you practice mugging people?
I was like
get
getting
into
fully
methods?
into methods. And when I turned up, everyone was being really nice to us. You got like hair and makeup, obviously, because you were a walk-on artist. Got a coat outside when it was cold. Didn't get that when I was an extra. Had to stand in Newcastle in February, freezing, but it was lovely.
You had your Lego.
But when I turned up, obviously, because I knew from doing the other one that your days on set are quite long, so I turned up in like a hoodie and joggers, and I was like, then if I'm sitting about or whatever, and when I turned up, one of the people on the team or whatever was like, oh, amazing, you've come dressed.
So good.
And I was like, no, this is literally how I dress. And it was that crushing moment where I was like 18, 19, whatever, and I was like, oh, I dress like a criminal.
You
Oh,
look like a
great,
woman.
thanks.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
yeah.
But you know, like me, that's how I dress as well. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
full
obviously I
blown.
play out for these guys, but
That's
Yeah.
you fit in the rat
we're
game. Yeah.
we're from ends. That's what
Exactly.
happens.
How I base
Stop
my
saying ends.
how I
it
base
means,
my
it means
shopping.
sort of a rough area. Tom, sorry.
But just stop saying it. It's
I'll go on
truly,
like
truly
police
awful.
Facebook pages and look through the mug shots, and I'll be like, what are they wearing? That is what I need to.
I always
buy
find that
this.
weird that you can post. I once got incredibly stoned and someone showed me an American prison. You could look at all like the
Really?
prisoners.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah. You could look at all their faces.
Oh, I'd love that.
yeah.
Yeah.
There should be a
I'm sure there's
dating
some
app for
kind of
that.
like sick game where you could try and match the crime with the face.
Would be good. Wow. So,
Yeah.
do you like doing those acting jobs, or is it like quite disheartening to just be like told to sit there
It was
and
quite.
stand there? And,
I remember being an extra, and it's the close. Like what I can compare it to now is being like an open mic comic. You know, you want to be a comedian, but you're like, I'm doing this at quite a low level, not going to get recognition. I remember it was like the first day of filming, and I'm like sat like in the classroom or whatever. And one of the main actors turned to us and went, so do you hope to do this properly one day?
Oh.
And it was like, like a dagger to the heart.
Also,
It
like,
just-
how high up was this actor?
Exactly.
Probably like a bit part role.
Yeah.
But it's just like classic mentality. It's like school,
Yeah.
like year 8s having to go at year 7s.
And that's the thing when you're working with people who are, so she was probably maybe 16, 17 herself, clearly like trying to be nice, but just coming across, and it reminds us of every like time you've come off stage from a bad gig, and they're like, oh, like, say if you're like comparing, and they're like, you should be one of the acts, or like,
Yeah,
oh, you should do comedy, and it's like, I do, like, oh, but they're all right. Like I didn't
They often
like.
tell me when I come off from emceeing,
Yeah.
You should not do any further than that.
Please
That was
stop.
more than enough.
Adequate.
You next time be on the door.
Yeah, I get so petty. Now I do comedy full time. I get really petty if I ever see anyone being like, don't quit your day job. I'm like, oh, well, actually, this is my day job, so thank you for the compliment. And my boyfriend's like, stop it. That's not.
No one reacts.
You are not. You are not as
Actually,
sassy as you think.
what you'll find is
Yeah.
that, and then everybody left.
This is my day job, and actually, I earn enough to pay tax now, and I didn't when I worked in Boots, so I'm contributing more to society. So what you're saying is you want me to go back to not paying for the NHS? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
My
And they're
boyfriend's
offline
like,
at
calm
this
down.
point, then, or, yeah.
It's been 3 years. They've died.
But do you want to be an actor as well?
I like doing bits of acting, but I'm very specific. Well, I only like doing funny stuff. I don't really like the serious shit. It just reminds us of being at uni and everybody being like taking it far too seriously.
I was going to say, you did drama, you studied drama, so what was your ideal to be like this?
Well, I did comedy like when I started uni, so I'd already started doing comedy. So I think I knew I wanted to do something. I think I thought I wanted to be a comedy actor, and then the more I went through uni and they did not really do any comedy with us whatsoever, I was like, yeah, like I think I want to be a comedian. But I think if I'd done more comedy acting at uni, I maybe would have pushed that harder. But like, yeah. Seems so easy to get into acting if you're a comedian because you're like, I can look like I'm enjoying myself. I do that 5 nights a week around the country. Yes.
We should do that, Tom. What could we be? What could we be extras in? You could be an extra in generic club night, something.
And
or
you could be extra in sort of dads beating up, or you could, like, like
Zing.
a kids party with like a dad
back and forth.
Background dad.
100%.
Yeah.
Perfect.
background dad.
Dad at the park.
God, shots fired. I wouldn't mind.
I went
Dad at
for
the
a-
park. I could be that.
Yeah.
I went for a Nivea commercial this week. Yeah, that was
Your skin
interesting.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you find that?
I was completely random. I was just walking through Soho and some woman stopped me and was like, "You'd be good."
The dream.
And then they were like, if you put down £500,
Yeah.
we will
Yeah,
back
we'll
you
get you that.
£1,000
You're gonna be a star, kid.
for.
Yeah.
Well, who's it for? Nivea, sure.
Yeah.
You want that.
That's great. That's even see now you've got rid of the hair. They can see your face more.
Yeah, and they were like, yeah. So I had to bounce a basketball, and yeah, it was
was
really
that?
weird. And
You
then
good at basketball?
look bored. Yeah, I could bounce a basketball.
You can look
put it through
bored.
my legs.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
What they did, or you?
What
Oh, you put the basketball
Yeah,
through
yeah.
your own legs. Okay.
Well, no, just watch
Someone just
someone
schooled
do
you.
that. Owned. Yeah.
So, oh wow, okay. And you look bored as well.
Yep. Look
What was
bored.
the plan? What's this? So you look bored, put on some Nivea, and then you can play basketball. Is that the?
Yeah.
Like,
There was. I think they wanted I would have to be like a guy who would play basketball and after the basketball game put on Nivea. And for some reason, also the other scenario was be at a party and look bored. That was the brief.
yeah, I've seen you do that.
Yeah,
so-
you can nail
Every
that.
week on this podcast.
I'll go and call this a party, mate. What kind of parties does this guy go to? Microphones? What? Did you go for adverts ever?
Yeah.
How was that?
I've been in one.
For leg
Oh, nice.
For Lillette's tampons.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
You
good.
got for that one, Tom, or?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
tried. Yeah.
But because it was only an online one, so obviously it was like targeted, and all of like my lad mates are like, how come we haven't seen it? And I'm like, do you regularly get adverts for sanitary projects like targeted at you? And they're like, oh no, don't think that's for me.
What do you have to do?
yeah,
Did you have to look uncomfortable or
It
something
was
and then like skateboard
they wanted
later?
a comedian, and I was originally like, no, I don't want to do it. But then I was like,
offered you
hang
money.
on. But that's what I was thinking. I was like, if they want a female comedian, you know, when you go through your head of all the other female comics sort of like at your level who will probably be considered, and I was like, well, surely one of them's going to bite their arm off for it, and then I'm going to be like, oh, like I could have had that money. So I was like, oh, if it's only going online,
Why wouldn't
I'll
you
do
have done
it.
it the first time then?
I felt a bit like, not necessarily embarrassed, but I was like, oh, I don't want it to be like, oh, she did the tampon advert. Well, that's the girl on
Tampon
the.
girl.
Even though the more I thought about it, I was like, no one's going to say it. Like, hardly anyone's going to say it. And they filmed it at the Stand in Edinburgh just before the Edinburgh Festival. It was meant to be that I was like doing a set on stage, and I was fuming because I only got 1 free box of tampons.
What?
I thought I'd get loads of free
That was the
tampons.
payment?
I got paid. I got paid.
Wow.
That's
Jesus
rubbish. That
Christ.
was a low bar.
Yeah, here you go, and it's like damaged. They're like,
Yeah.
cheers.
Just kick him out the toilet. Just
Yeah.
like,
Oh, a good one. Right.
Yeah, I was like, I thought the perks would be like getting loads
So,
of freebies.
okay, so you just had to. So is that all they did for the gig? They
Yeah,
just
so it
filmed
was
you doing
absolutely
it?
fine. It just took like a day. And then not many people saw it. So I was like, it's fine.
How do
it's
you
fine.
find the auditions for that sort of
Oh,
thing?
I find so. Did an audition last week for I think it was some car insurance company or something. It was really weird. So I did the first audition, and again, it's odd because there's like 2 blokes in a room, and you've got 3 lines or 4 lines. And it's a bit like, this is weird. But then I got a second one. I was like, oh, I must have done all right. And the director was like on Skype from LA or whatever. So I was auditioning in front of like 3 or 4 people, and then just this man on Skype, and I was like, this is odd. This is very odd.
And he was giving you notes.
Yeah,
from,
so he was
from
like
LA.
giving me notes from LA, and he was like, yeah, the giant, you make sure you're looking at him because he's a giant, so look higher. And I was like, okay, but there isn't a giant here. Like, this is weird. But
bizarre.
I find advert auditions, I auditioned for the McDonald's one where the girls are stuck in a lift.
Oh,
And they get sent like chicken select. I auditioned for that one, and you had to audition with another girl, and weirdly the girl I auditioned with was one of the main actors in Wolf Blood, but I didn't say that to
You were
her.
like, look at me now.
Yeah, look at us audition for the same advert. Like she
And she was like, so do you want to make this a real
real
career?
career.
And you're
Yeah.
like, shut the fuck up.
like our paths never, well, obviously, like I was in scenes with her, but no way would she have known or remembered who I was because I was a bloody extra. So I didn't say anything to her, but I remember thinking, whoa, this is weird. Like, this is very odd. But that was odd because they made you sort of like do a little bit of improv together and like to show that you were like friends. And I was like, but we're not friends.
You're like, I'm a comedian, I'll take this from here.
Yeah. I was like, because you had like, obviously the whole thing of the advert was like how you would keep each other entertained in a lift. So I was like taking my shoes off to swap shoes with her, and you could see for a second she was like, why is she giving me I don't want to wear your shoes. And I was like, I want the McDonald's advert. Like, put
Is
my
that
shoes
what you
on.
would do if you were bored in a lift?
Well, like
Swap
girls
shoes.
don't you? Like, I was thinking, what would girls do? What would girls do? I do not have many female friends. And I was like, well, maybe you'd swap clothes or go, oh, I like your shoes. Oh, do you want to try them on? I really don't have many female friends. I don't know.
Me and Tom sometimes swap trousers.
Yeah.
Sort of.
This is the big reveal. They're actually Tom's trousers.
These
They are
are,
not.
no, they're too wide to be Tom's trousers.
It would not fit my slender hips.
No,
Yeah.
you've got your thin legs. No, they wouldn't. Oh wow, okay. But you didn't get the McDonald's one.
Nah.
Shame. Wow.
That would have been big money as well.
That would have been good money.
There's
good
crazy
money.
money in like the buyouts and stuff. And
Yeah.
Tom helped me get an advert once.
Really?
He filmed me for an audition. I met the dude actually who cast me in that randomly the other day. But yeah, it was. I had to be a lad. So
Lad.
I've said it
Easy.
before.
Yeah.
I've said it before on this podcast.
We were
but
amazed.
They
that
told,
Yeah.
they
no
told
one
me
could believe
they
it.
told
to
me
be
to
honest.
tone it down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
we're
everything.
just too good.
It was it was for Lad by War
Ah.
and not anti betting, but
Yeah.
whatever you call it, sort of bet responsibly thing,
Yeah.
charity. So
See, I just don't like auditions in general because I always get like, because I'm quite like baby faced, I'll get sent for younger stuff, or I'll get sent for like the nerd or whatever, because I know I'm not like hot pretty. Like I'm that like sort of like, oh, girl next door, she's all right at 2 a.m. Like that is my.
you realise we can't really comment.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
not
two guys
baiting
going,
you.
We go.
Yeah,
Either
no,
way
whatever.
we
I'm
go.
absolutely-
We go. Yeah. No. That's so
you could have gone.
I'm like-
I'm
always
beautiful,
like-
gorgeous.
Yeah.
You would have gone. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you
I'm
could have gone.
totally
Actually,
not
no, I'm
baiting.
disgusting for
Yeah.
everyone.
Either way, we
No.
flipped on
Yeah.
that was just.
But like the
super-
Wolf Blood one, I remember there was one day when they like one of the runners or one of the crew or whatever came in, and he picked me and one other guy, and he was like, "We're gonna do a scene with you," and we felt like, you know, in Toy Story, that when the aliens, and we were like, "We've been chosen." we were so excited because we were the only two, and it was a detention scene, and they were like, "You're gonna be at the back of the classroom, like doing your notes, and then obviously the main actors are gonna be like dicking around and having a conversation." And I remember being really excited because I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a scene, maybe this will be the episode
Big
someone
break.
sees us. Big break, Oscar nom. And then one of my mates was actually one of the main actors in it, and he told me after, which was a dickish thing to tell us, but again, we were kids and he probably thought he was being funny. Oh, they came in and said that they needed 2 people who looked a bit plain and nerdy, and that's why we'd got picked. And I was like, oh my god.
Your glasses almost fell off.
Yeah.
You're like, gosh,
I
darn
was
it.
like, my brace is just reflecting in there. I remember it was just dead hurtful because, like, when you're like an 18-year-old girl anyway, you're always so
Yeah.
paranoid about how you look. And then for one of the lads to be like, oh, they picked you because you look like a nerd. I was like, oh, so sad.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with acting as well. You really got to accept who
Exactly.
you are, what you're
It's
gonna get
very
cast
brutal.
For. It's just like
I had a one-line bit in a sitcom last year. It was
what was the sitcom?
Tim Renko's one, Jerk.
Oh,
which
yeah,
is really,
yeah,
really
yeah.
good. So I was playing, he was doing like a speed dating scene. So it was me, I think Sarah Callahan was one of the other girls. And they were just like 2-3 line bits. But my character was the ugly girl that Tim turns down. And it was a bit like, and I didn't know that. I knew from the script that he, like,
Tim's a friend as well. How good is that?
yeah.
Lauren, I've got the perfect
part of
role
the
for you.
life.
We've been playing this since the day we met. You can just slip into it, no problem.
And like the script was so funny, and obviously I could see from the script that the joke was obviously like all these girls have been rejecting Tim because he's disabled, and then he gets to my character and he rejects me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's funny, but it hadn't clicked in my brain that the reason he'd be rejecting us is because he wasn't attracted to us. Like knowing that just hasn't clicked. It was only when I turned up to set and the makeup lady was like, so we're not going to do too much to you because you're meant to be quite unattractive. And I was like, just shoot us.
the way as well, they're not even like, we're going to have to sort of change some features to make you look grosser.
So
she was like,
literally.
no, you
Exactly.
Off you go.
So I
a
got
nice
given,
tracksuit, by the way.
I got given like a really ugly like shirt or dress or whatever to wear, but like in terms of makeup, I think all they did was like put a bit of foundation on us, and they were like, "You're so gross," and like I'm ready. And luckily, like I was a bit older by that point, so I was like, "Look, I can take it. Like I get what they're saying. I'm not like an Insta girl. Like I get it. Like that's fine." But at the same time, I was like, "This is like being an 18-year-old on Wolf Blood all over again, all over."
With that, you just got to accept. Like, I would say only recently I've accepted that I probably won't be James Bond. Like, that's something that will never happen.
Why? But then you can be Daniel Craig's like 68. You can be James Bond later.
No, I'm just not going to be cast for James Bond.
be
This is
James
they don't
Bond.
want the James Bond is not.
You got to stop. You got to look more like a sort of
Like you,
capable,
this is
capable man,
this
and
is-
less like a man about a rake about town, some
are
fuckboy.
you are really sounding like my dad now. This
You've
is
got
exactly
Eddie.
you've really
Pull
got
up your socks.
Come on.
If you say you're not going to be James Bond, you'll never be James Bond.
Yeah, not with that
You
attitude.
could be Horatio. Tell him he could be James
You
Bond.
could be the villain.
Yeah.
You could be
Be
the
the
villain.
villain.
right?
That is-
But yeah, like people get cast as James Bond in their 40s. But yeah, you'll need a bit more sort of like smouldering competency.
Yeah, you'll need. This is not going to be cast, but it's acceptance. You got to go like, what am I going to be?
Yeah.
What are you going to be?
I
cast
could
as?
be
Tom, are you an actor?
Huh? No, I've just
Nivea
got
commercial.
stuff.
in
Got
TV.
rid of- yeah, so Nivea commercial. He knows.
So
Hey,
why
you
were
want
you
to be
even
in it?
considering?
Huh?
Why are you even considering?
It was just like a dream in the back of my
dream.
mind that I would
Yeah.
possibly be cast as
Could
James
be
Bond.
James Bond.
Yeah, you
One
might need
day.
to.
Well,
act
let's start this
to begin
campaign
with.
now, guys. If we get enough Twitter responders, I'll
Yeah,
be the
Tom
next
Roll.
Bond.
James
They'll
Bond,
just see
yeah.
you
Yeah,
on the
no, Lewis
street and
Bond
go,
girl.
James
Yeah.
Bond. He's going to do it. No acting experience.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
chuck him in. He has
Just
the
walk
look.
straight in.
He has the look.
Yeah, I've got the look. If anything, they want real, authentic people, and I feel like my life parallels
got
James
play-
Bond's quite well.
There's a lot of basketball in James Bond. Isn't there? You can show them your skills and that.
and a lot of looking
And he
bored
does
at
look
parties.
bored. He
Yeah.
does look bored at parties. To be
Yeah.
fair, he's got a mission.
Yeah.
I could be your sidekick.
Yeah.
In James Bond.
Cute.
I think I could be cute. Did you say?
Q. Yeah. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Jokes. So I think that's my role is similar to you in that like
Yeah.
I don't think I've got it to be the hot piece of ass, that main person.
The what? Sorry.
Hot piece of ass.
Okay.
I had to say it like that because it was a weird
Hot
thing to
piece
say,
of
so I sort
arse.
of, I'll say it weird.
The hot
Yeah.
piece of ours.
The hard piece of arse. You're a real fucking hard piece of arse there. So, but I could be the sidekick, who has to still be good looking enough
That's
to be
it.
in
I'm
a
always
film.
going to be the friend, like the quirky friend. That's me, or the little
I
sister.
feel like as comics, that's what we're always.
That's it.
destined
Yeah,
to
you
be.
do play that.
Yeah.
You know.
Are there any comics who have been not a fallible leading man or woman in that they're just but they're cute or whatever, but like
Yeah.
genuinely, are there any comics who have been like an actual like leading person in
There's
an
a
action film or
there-
something like that? Or
There's a few who have sort of crossed over. It's like, well, Steve Carell's done a lot of like, you know,
Yeah.
he did
he's done
did
alright.
sort of silly stuff and then serious stuff.
Steve Coogan's been a bit in films, but
Yeah.
I don't know if he's ever. He's sort of been like the romantic lead, I guess, but
Yeah.
it's never been like with a.
Thing is, like, I'm happy to be the quirky friend or the sidekick. Just maybe don't say I'm the ugly one. Like, could I not just be the quirky friend or the knight rather than you're actually the unattractive quirky friend? That's who you. You
But
could've-
Fugly, get over here. We've got to shoot this
Could have
scene.
just told us I was the quirky one and I would have been happy. Didn't need to say I was the uggo. No, thank you.
Oh yeah,
Tim's like, I specifically wrote that in.
Yeah.
You've got to do it.
ugly. Brutal. Right, have you got any other fails you want to share?
My favourite fails from being like younger is I went through a spate of being thrown out of nightclubs for falling asleep on the toilet.
Oh, classic.
That
Yeah,
was
I've
a
heard
classic.
Yeah.
Like,
Ever fall asleep and then the lights woken up and the lights are all off?
probably the worst one was I used to do club promotions for Propaganda. Don't know if you've
Oh,
got
yeah,
a
yeah,
propaganda
yeah,
near
indie
you.
disco night,
The
yeah, yeah.
indie, and I started working for them when I was in sixth form, but I was 18, so it was legal.
Oi.
And worked for them sort of like through first year of uni as well. But then we got like, the manager left and we got a new manager, and she was like, clueless. If you're listening, Soz, you are clueless. Now, none you just do
take that.
not hit, that'll teach you. None you just don't hit it off with someone. She clearly hated me.
But
Clearly
are you
hated
doing,
her.
what's the promote? Are you doing the looking for a club tonight,
Yeah,
guys?
I'd go around flyering in town,
Wristbands.
or I'd be stood in the entrance, and I'd be the one who, like, you have to sign up to like the mailing list or whatever, and you'll get a free shot, or you'll get a, like, or if it was like propaganda sports day, we'd be handing out the medals, like things like that.
Did you
All
ever
right,
do
job.
door rejection? That is, I always feel like that is a hideous job. The people who
Yeah.
are doing that, the people who reject
think they
people
like it.
for the way they look,
Yeah.
you are a real piece of shit.
It
And
But it's,
you
I
need
think
to
they
look
like it
at
though.
yourself.
It's like you've seen traffic wardens. They love it.
Yeah.
That you
Yeah.
can't. I've never ever in my life seen someone get to their car and be like, sorry mate, I'm literally, and the traffic warden's been like, I get it, don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
No.
They're always like, nah mate,
Yeah.
you're done, see ya, get out of their
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
I got you, bro.
Like
Yeah.
traffic wardens get paid per ticket, so
Oh,
they
do
have to
they?
reach quotas and stuff, and that's why they get done.
That's
But
why-
door
I thought
people,
that was a myth. No.
door people,
Yeah.
like there's no financial incentive for them turning people away
Exactly.
other than
No,
being
but
a
well,
prick.
no, but
Yeah.
they've got to, yeah.
We
Okay,
were
there's-
quite good for it
so-
propaganda because it was propaganda, so we were like, yeah, anyone
Yeah,
can come in.
fuck it.
Like,
Well, there's
we don't-
Are you
different-
standing? You're in.
we're just desperate for the
I
numbers.
miss that about uni. You go getting into a nightclub, no matter that you're staying. Just
Yeah.
like, oh,
Shot
well,
and
Yeah.
wearing
just heard
whatever,
you,
and
heard
then
you in.
the entry's like £3, and you're like, oh, £3.
Yes.
There's different types of this. So there's those bouncers who are just sort of whatever, but if someone's real causing problems, they'll let them.
Yeah.
But then there's like the Mayfair wanker bouncers, who this happened to my sister and her friends. So they went for one of their birthdays, and there's a group of girls, like 6 of them,
Yeah.
and the bouncer was just like to them at the door. So you can get in.
Oh,
She's not getting
no.
in just because she didn't have the right look.
That would be me, wouldn't it? That would be me.
Well,
I'd be ugly friend turns up from the nightclub. Oh,
It's gonna be your next role.
no. There's going to be some casting director listening going, oh, yes,
Yeah,
perfect.
But like, what? And that is, isn't that like? Surely it'd be a lawsuit. There must have been that like your attractiveness is to get you into a nightclub.
Exactly.
That is
I'm going to get
disturbing.
more attractive the more you have to drink, so just let me in. Like,
so what happened with the
oh,
promo?
yeah. So there was one shift where I was also working for, because I only did like propaganda on a Saturday, I was also working at Boots, and it'd been the Boots Christmas party. So I'd gone to
way.
the Christmas party, and then my shift at propaganda started at like 10 or 11 or whatever. So I was like, right, I'll just go after. I was the youngest person who worked in Boots by about 30 years. So all the women had got me shit-faced. Like one woman who was about 60 had smuggled booze into the venue by putting it in an empty perfume bottle. So she had like a perfume bottle that was just full of like
so
all these like
smart.
60-year-old lovely women who I'd been working with for a year. I suddenly found out they were fucking savages. It was amazing, but I was bad, like absolutely bad. I remember it was like, say, like a 5-minute walk to the club. I was shit, like looking back, I was ridiculously drunk, but also I was like, it's a promotions job, it doesn't matter. I remember being partnered up with who I was going to go flyering with, getting to the end of the street and him being like, I can't work with you, I can't, like you're so drunk. So he like took his back to the venue. They took me down to like one of the dressing rooms, because it was in like an O2 academy, to like sober up. Obviously went to be sick in the toilet, but then when you do that thing where you lock the door, so I'd lock the door, but being sick or try to be sick, and then fallen asleep, and I'd bloody lock myself in. So I wake up, and obviously I'm like, had no concept what time it was, my phone had died, just opened the door, nobody's in the dressing room, and I was like, oh shit, like everybody's probably working. Club's empty, like empty. And I thought, oh, I've only been asleep for a few minutes, the club hasn't opened yet, I'll go downstairs, I'll apologise, I'll say if they want us to go flyer, and they're literally in the process of locking the doors. It was 3 a.m, I just slept through the whole.
What did they say when
And I
they
was
saw
like,
you?
oh my, no, and it dawns on you, because I was still a bit drunk, but also starting to sober up, and I was like, I've slept through the whole shift essentially, like oh my god. And I was kind of panicking a little bit, but then at the same time I was like, it's a £6 an hour promotions job, it doesn't matter. I think they made sure I got a taxi or whatever home, and then I got like a phone call, and they were like, obviously that was really bad, really unprofessional. If you want to keep this job, you're gonna have to work New Year's Eve. And I was like, how about I just don't keep the job? No, do I want to keep me £6 an hour promotions job or miss New Year's Eve by going to work for 2 hours? Like, no, thank you. And so I kind of got away with it. I thought I'd just be straight up sacked, but I actually ended up getting just to quit. So I was like, that's quite That was quite fun. But apparently,
Slept through it.
when I think they did sort of tell us, like, maybe I'd been like, oh, where is everyone? And someone had really angrily, presumably one of the managers, been like, what's 3 a.m? Like, everybody's left. And I was like, it's not my fault, your club shit. And they were like, no, it's literally finished. Like, that's why no one's here. But that was a big old fail.
Bloody hell.
Big
Did you ever get
fail.
like, so bouncers would sometimes kick you out as well? If you were sort of
Yeah, I
sleeping
remember
disorders?
falling asleep in a club. Maybe it was like A-level results or something. Like that kind of... I remember being with school friends. It must have been like a sixth formy time. I remember it was one of the ones on the Diamond Strip, which is where like all the Geordie Shore lot then started going. But this would have been before that. And I just remember hearing a banging on the door and being like, I'll be like 2 minutes. But then looking at my phone and realising I'd been in there like 45 minutes or something, and clearly like the people who I was with, and my boyfriend at the time had obviously been like, I can't find my girlfriend, I think she might be in trouble, and I was just like,
Really nice snooze. And those sleeps are great, man. Those
Snooze.
drunk
Disco
sleep-
nap.
Little toilet snooze,
it's
Disco
yeah.
nap, Geordie Shore, like, I was once in a nightclub with that guy Scotty T, and
Oh,
was probably
yeah.
like one of the worst
Clash.
people
Shock.
ever. He was
Really?
so fucked, and he was just going to girls in the smoking area. He was like, I'm gonna butt you, and I'm gonna butt you. He was just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And to be fair to him, he probably,
probably did.
Yeah,
Feeling your
Probably
lines there,
did.
Tom.
I'm all butt you, butt you.
What was that for a buffet,
Well,
this
yeah.
one?
Yeah.
Can we not just have a nice meal? Bop, bop,
I
bop.
butt you, and you.
You're going the right way for a bopping.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's okay. So disco napping through
Just
entire
going napping on the
nights. Yeah.
toilet.
Any a last gig one?
Yeah,
Have you
you
got
wanna-
any sort of
Think,
horror? Because I heard
weirdly-
this story about this girl. This
Yeah.
girl was telling me.
I will
Brutal.
tell you that when we
you-
stop.
no. So yeah, any
Um,
ones you'd like to share?
It's weird. I feel like when people say, have you ever had a bad gig? I'm not one of these comics who's like, I've never bombed. I'm like, oh my God, loads. And they're like, tell me about one. But knowing your brain seems to be protecting yourself.
Yeah.
And you're like, why have I repressed these memories? But the one I can think of that was horrendously bad. The club doesn't even exist anymore. It was Baby Blue in Liverpool. Did
Oh,
you ever
yeah.
do that one? I remember being dead excited to be booked for it because I was like, it's a proper weekend gig. Like, this is going to be amazing.
What sort of were you? 10 middle?
I think I was doing a 20, a 15
Okay.
or a 20, so it was like a decent length spot.
Oh wow. Okay. It's
And
proper.
maybe I'd done it. I think maybe I'd done the club once before, but at like the trial spot or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, proper. And I remember watching the first act struggle, and they were a good act, and I was like, it's the first act, isn't it? Like sometimes the first act has to take the bullet. They'll have had a drink, they'll have warmed up, telling yourself like everything
yeah.
like that you get told. And then I went on, and know when it's like pin drop silent, it was awful. And then there was this like big group of people, and she just starts like chatting, the woman, and I was like, look, would you mind like not talking? And the rest of the crowd just were like silent. And it was worse, if anything, to have this one person talking, and I was like, oh, can you not hear that? Is that not bothering you? Silent. And it then made it
Not getting on board.
even worse. But I was like, I can't do a set to silence and one woman chatting. Then she started doing that thing where she was kind of trying to chip in with the punchlines, and I was like, can you all hear this, or am I having a breakdown?
Nothing.
Silence. And it was like, I was trying to banter off the fact that she was like so drunk and tough, but the crowd were clearly just like, we hate you and we're not going to help you. Now check me watch. I was like, maybe I cut my losses. I'd been on stage for 4 minutes and I was like, oh my God, I'm booked to do a 20. And I remember it being that awful thing where you're just like, I can't even make a joke out of how bad it's going
Yeah.
because they're just
They're not on board
Nothing.
at all.
they're
Yeah,
not on
yeah,
board
yeah.
at all. They hate my guts
No
and they want me
empathy.
to know about it. I think in the end, maybe I got to about 15 and I was like, I
Just
cannot.
stone
This
nothing.
is not where bloody take the money out of my fee. I don't care. None of you're at that stage of like,
Yeah.
nah. So just try and salvage it. This was a few years ago, so I'd have been quite young as well. I was like, I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, guys. I know that maybe you haven't had the best time with me, but just remember when you have a bad night at work, you don't have it in front of 100 people. Thought that might get a pity laugh or something. Silence. And I was like, oh my. I walked off stage and I literally just got my bag and went to go to the exit. I was like, I don't even want paying.
Yeah,
when you just
yeah,
think,
yeah.
fuck the
I
money.
don't deserve
like,
it. I don't even
yeah,
deserve
I was
it.
like, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
deserve the fee. I'm embarrassed to take the fee. I was half expecting the club to be like, we're not paying you. And as I was like going up the stairs, bless the girl comes running over and she was like, you haven't got your money. I was like, I don't want it. I don't deserve it. And she was like, no, honestly, she went, that wasn't you. It was them. And I was like, well, it was me because I couldn't make them laugh. And she was like, no, they're a shit crowd. And I remember being so sad, staying in like a travel lodge in Liverpool. I found like a Tesco that was open and bought a mixed pack of continental meats.
All the stories of bombing.
Drowning
always-
your sorrow in the
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always so depressing. They always end
Yeah.
in. And then I was in a travel lodge or a B&B,
Yeah.
and I'm just.
No, and you're like, I want, and I was like, well, I don't want ice cream because like I'm in a hotel. Like, no, and you're just like, I just want something to eat that'll make us feel. Because I just sat and had this whole. There's a picture of me somewhere on like Twitter or Facebook, just surrounded by like pepperoni and chorizo. Like, this'll make it better. And I remember being like, what is the point? That was a really bad one. Because no one is just like, everyone in this room hates me. It's not that I've split the room. They have all
Yeah, they
collectively
agreed.
gone,
You've unified them
no,
against
we
you.
are. If there's one thing we are
They've never felt
united,
more together.
it's how much we hate you.
What do you do after a bad gig, generally? How do you get yourself back up to
It
going
depends.
out
If I'm
and
staying
make yourself
in
feel
the
better?
city, I normally get something to eat and then sit and like watch a film or watch something on telly and just be, I'm just going to get it out of my system.
Is there like a film you watch, or is it
Whatever's
just
on
whatever? So you're
the
not-
on
yeah,
the
just
like
put something on.
Yeah.
And, okay.
And if it's a gig that I'm coming straight home that night, I just stew and I fester and I sit and I feel like I know in a film when the sad music plays and they're looking out the window, I just feel like that for the whole train.
Does your boyfriend now know if it's been a bad gig?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. But sometimes he's confused because I'll come in with like a McDonald's and he's like, good gig? I'm like, bad gig. And he's like, oh, I thought that was a treat McDonald's. And I'm like, no, this is a sad
This is a bad McDonald's.
This is just nuggets.
Yeah, so 20 sharing box.
Yeah.
It's just the sauces. I don't deserve anything else.
Yeah, that's the guy. Only comics. If you were an actor, you know, if you
Yeah.
had like a bad day on set, I'm sure you went like back to your trailer in nice hotels. Only
Yeah.
comics who like have like,
It feels
back
so
to the travel lodge.
personal though, like so personal. That was a bad one. And probably the worst gig of my life was Birmingham Jongleurs. And it was the last weekend that it was going to be Jongleurs. And then
Yeah.
it was that Jongleurs was shutting down. It was becoming Comedy Loft. I was doing my trial for Jongleurs. So I was like, what is the point of me? Literally, I think, in fact, all of the Jongleurs were closing down. And I was like, so what is the point of me doing? Does this count as my trial for the Comedy Loft? No, if you want to do the Comedy Loft, you'll have to come and do another trial for them. And I was like, so why am I here? But I'd only been doing comedy a couple of years. I was like, I need the stage time. I went, and this was when I still used to like dress in dresses and stuff for gigs because I wanted to like make an effort. And I remember the crowd was, I want to say, 95% stags. There was maybe 3 women in the room, and there was about 4 or 5 stag parties. Very lad heavy, and everybody who went on, all the lads wanted was like they didn't want material. They were, take the piss of my mate, take the piss of my mate, and all of the comics, you could see the gear change in their head when they were going, just do tits and fanny material, just pander to what they want. So they were doing like, oh, like dicks and tits and fanny, and I was like, that's fine, you're having to tailor your set for them, but how the fuck am I expected to have a good gig when you've only helped make the atmosphere more laddie? And I remember being like shit scared, really didn't want to go on, but also I was like, I want to impress. I was still breaking into paid work. I hadn't even got to the microphone and they started chanting, get your tits out, and I was like, I didn't think this actually happened. Like, I genuinely thought this was a thing of the past. And it was around the time of Aaron Johnson. Do you remember him? The Sunderland football player who
Adam
shagged
Johnson,
15-year-old.
yeah.
So, or Adam Johnson, that's the one. So I think I made some comment about that. I'd had a comment prepared, and I was like, what a job where you have to have something prepped just in case you get some sexual heckle. And I was like, oh, if you've not learned anything from Adam Johnson, you might want to check my ID before you try and fuck us. Something like that. And I
Yeah,
thought, it's football
funny.
related.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
laddie.
yeah.
It's about
That's pure lad
shagging.
banter.
That'll
That'll
win them
kill.
over. I'll be like, yeah, they won't. And to be fair, the rest of the stags laughed, but the one stag party who'd heckled it was like they'd gone, who does she think she's just embarrassed my mate? And they sat like huffy little boys, clearly annoyed that I'd got a laugh out of taking the piss out of their mate.
Maybe it was a bit too close for home for someone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bit dark.
But I felt so
It wasn't a stag do, it was
victorious.
a leaving tour before you
Yeah,
got locked up.
I felt like I won them in that second, but then once I went into me material, I would have been maybe like 20, 21 at the time, and they clearly didn't want what I was doing, and it was just awful. I remember the stag party who had pissed off, they were chatting, nobody was like, I felt so uncomfortable being up there. I was trying to like cover myself when I was on stage, and when I came off I just burst into tears, and the compere was like, you're gonna have to learn to just accept stuff like that. And I was like, no, that is everything that is wrong with this industry.
That's
Like,
Your
no.
advice, that is a crying
Yeah.
20-year-old trying to break into comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, get used to it.
I was like, I wasn't crying because the gig was bad. I think I was crying more at the heckle I'd got, which I know is maybe like a little bit soft or whatever, but I couldn't believe at 20 years old, like someone had seen a young woman coming on stage, just try. That's why I wasn't being paid. I wasn't being paid. And I think that had been specified before I came on. That was a trial spot. I was like, you know, I'm doing a shorter spot. You know, I'm like the trial at, and you've still gone out of your way to make me feel like shit. I remember sitting having a little cry at the back, and then the boyfriend I was with at the time was driving us back to Newcastle. We were about 2 hours into driving home, and he just went, please stop crying now.
That's a lot of tears.
Polite.
Sobbing.
Polite request.
Please, we still have 2 hours of this drive left. Could you please stop crying?
My seats are getting wet. You need to just...
You're there, just surrounded by ham and chorizo.
I've run out of meat.
Oh, the brutal gigs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just everyone does get them. But would you say, as a woman in the industry now, that you felt like there has been a bit of a shift?
I've never had anything like that since. Never. I've had gigs where I think you're less sure on me straight away because I'm a woman, definitely.
Yeah.
But normally they're resolved quite quickly, and if they're not, usually there's enough people in the audience who are on board that you're like, I don't care that there's two. And it's not always men, not all men. Sometimes women are the worst. I don't think women are funny. Who does she think she is? Trying to be funny? Oh, fuck off, Karen. Like,
that's a weird complex as well for that kind of thing. When it's women being like, women, I'm just like, what?
I'm like, what are you doing, you blood traitor? Like, but yeah, normally you can like see if there's there was one not long ago where a commentator had said, your next act, you're going to love her. And I heard someone in the front go, a woman. And I was like, oh, come on, grow up. But that was like, he was a dick, but there was like 49 other people in the room who were lovely. So I'm like, you don't mind that, but nothing quite like that Birmingham one where it was clear the whole crowd were just like, no. Oh, the women we like don't have opinions. No, thank you. Yeah, I think it's definitely getting better. And I think more lads are more likely to call it out now. I was doing the store not long ago, and someone was about to bring Jo Caulfield on, and someone heckled something sexual about her. And you saw the commentator kind of stop for a second, and then he went, mate, that's not all right. Like, that's totally not. If you're going to talk about, like, the acts like that, you can just leave right now. And I sat in the back, and I was like, yay! Yay! Like, it was the first time I'd really seen, like, somebody be like, hang on, no, that's my colleague. Don't you dare. And he shut it down so quickly, and I was like, yes, times they are a-changing. Thank you.
Yeah, there's no place. I mean, you're still going to get rowdy rooms or whatever. There's no place for active, like...
Exactly. Like, I can handle
sexism.
chatting. I was at Nottingham Glee last weekend, and I could hear some chat. And my rule is leave it until you hear somebody else shush them. And I'm like, right now, it's not. Because sometimes in rooms, you think it's disturbing everyone. You call it out, and other people can't hear it. So I was like, I'll wait till... And someone did shush them. I was like, right, it's distracting people. So I was just like, look, there's a bit of chat going on over there. I went, if you don't like me, totally fine. There's another act coming on soon. Maybe they'll be more to your taste. I went, but plenty of people are laughing here, which means plenty of people enjoy me. I've got 9 minutes left. Shirley, you can be quiet for 9 minutes so that everybody else can enjoy their night that they've paid for a fucking ticket for. Big round of applause. And I was like, well done, Lauren. And they stopped talking. And if I was a lad, I would have had a boner. I was like, this is amazing. Like,
they just listened and did it.
Because I'm so used to rowdy rooms or chatty rooms where you tell them off for talking and they just keep going. But it was like they were like, sorry, miss. Yes, miss. And swung me dick out of the club that night. I was like, yes, I found me stride.
Yeah, nice. Smashed it, man. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, it does still happen. I did AAA this year. I was emceeing it up in Edinburgh. And still, just people, we had a female act on the bill, and just some of the shit that was like said, it was just unbelievable. Yeah. Just so open. You're like, you know when you're so sexist.
It's
just
so
like,
brazen.
What?
Yeah.
Like, no,
you're not trying to get away with it.
Exactly.
You're just shouting it.
Surely you didn't say that.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Is there anything else you wish to share?
I think that's everything.
Okay, gone through all the fails. Is there anywhere that people can find you on social media or platforms?
You can find me crying outside of the nightclub because I was the ugly girl who wasn't let in. No, I'm on Twitter at Lauren Pattison. And that's probably the best. But I'm on Instagram, Lauren_Pattison. Don't know why.
It's a change up.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can follow me at Tom Elwes at AidofPod.
Ali Woods at Ali Woods Gigs. And again, you can find us on Patreon if you enjoy the show. We'd love to make this our profession and really kickstart something cool. So if you want to donate
something
us,
new.
something
Like High School Musical. It's the start of something
yes, I love that film.
This is the start of something new. It feels so right to be here with you, Tom Elwes. So if you want to do that, you can donate $5, $10, whatever dollars you want a month. I know it's in dollars, a bit weird, but whatever. www.patreon.com/ADIFpod, and you'll find us there, and you can donate to us, and that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Lovely.
everyone. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.